Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Mednick. I'm a professor at UCI, and my talk is entitled Respect the Downstate, the Science of Sleep. I'd like to begin by telling you about Cynthia. She's an undergrad at UCI who showed up to my Zoom office hour on Monday. I teach a seminar on sleep and memory, and usually students ask a clarification question for their class presentation, but not Cynthia. She just wanted to talk. She told me that she took my course because she was hoping to learn why sleep was so important, to convince herself that it's not just a huge waste of time. She wishes she didn't need to sleep because she feels like she's missing out on study opportunities and other events, all of which contributes to her already anxious state, and that she would somehow be better at everything if she didn't need to sleep. I thought that was pretty bold, telling your professor that you thought the topic of the class, and in fact your professor's entire career, was a waste of time. But Cynthia is not alone. In fact, I'd say she's the product of an entire country, world even, that would like to replace sleep and the rest of our restorative processes with more time on task, more time at the wheel, more time pounding on the keyboard, more time hammering away at whatever it is we hammer away at. We live in a culture of what I call Dozers, which appears to believe that we have unlimited resources and that pushing ourselves to the absolute red line limit is a reasonable expectation. And the pandemic has only worsened that expectation and pushed us closer to the brink of total burnout. A recent Harvard Business Review survey showed that more than 80% of respondents said that their own well-being declined in 2020. Half were unable to balance their home and work lives, likely because our homes have become our workplaces. And even more of those struggling to manage their workloads had experienced burnout, often or extremely often during this time. And what is all this go, go, go and doing to our health and well-being? Well, stress is high, and the rate of stress-related illnesses are climbing, including cardiovascular and metabolic disease, cognitive disorders such as Alzheimer's and dementia, and emotional problems, including depression and anxiety, are pervasive in adults and elders. And now even adolescents like Cynthia are experiencing escalating levels of anxiety. And the solution that society gives us is just to take some pills and carry on. Uppers like Adderall by day and downers like Ambien by night. We're such rock stars. But the truth is, we are resource limited. We weren't born with a solar panel on our backs. We can't just change out our batteries and keep building. Just like every biological organism, we need to recharge on a regular basis. Because when we don't, we end up like our cell phones on low power mode, which means we're slower than we need to be, dimmer, we feel drained, stressed out, and our processing time stinks. So we need to recharge, but how and when do we do it? It turns out that restorative processing and busy beavering can't happen at the same time. They are mutually exclusive. As much as we love to multitask, it appears that voracious doozering will always take precedent over deep repair and replenishment. So what's a girl to do? Well, it turns out that over the past 4.5 billion years, nature has been busy finding a solution to this riddle by setting up a pattern that I call upstates and downstates. These are two sides of a cycle or a rhythm, with the upstate reserved for activation, excitation, instigation, and motivation. And the downstate reserved for restoration, renewal, replenishment, and repair. This rhythm of upstates and downstates has been cycling since the beginning of time, via day and night. Nature, in its infinite wisdom, has relegated all of our most excitatory, energy requiring activities to the daylight hours. This is the time for hunting and foraging, exploring and conquering, and information gathering. And all of our mental and physical systems are fully supporting our upstate with greater energy availability and stronger cardiovascular functioning during the day. Our metabolism is set up for eating and processing our foods and turning them into energy most efficiently during the daylight hours. And our cognitive processes and abilities to self-regulate our behaviors and our emotions are at their highest during the day. Our autonomic nervous system also divides itself between day and night, reserving sympathetic nervous system activity, also called the fight or flight system, for daytime, and parasympathetic nervous system activity, also called the rest and digest system, for nighttime. I like to think of them as twin superheroes who each have different jobs and they keep each other in check. The sympathetic system is activated when you have any stressful experience, good or bad, making sure you have the resources you need for quick mobilization. This is appropriate when it happens during the day, but you need to rein in the sympathetic system or it can wreak havoc on your restorative processes. It's the parasympathetic's job to rein in her brother. Your parasympathetic system helps with healing broken tissue, calming racing hearts, replenishing energy supplies, and strengthening cognitive systems. And as I said, the parasympathetic system starts to turn on by late afternoon, when the sun works its way across the sky and dips below the horizon. At this time, all of your upstate systems begin closing up shop, indicating the beginning of the downstate, a time for heading for the safety of the burrow, taking off your upstate armor for some soft clothes, checking in with your cave mates, winding down and initiating the downstate parasympathetic processes that can only occur during this quiet place where there are no further demands on you and you can turn your attention inward and start minding all the precious work that keeps you intellectually sharp, helps you learn new tricks, heals growing muscles from your workout, lessens emotional triggers, restocks your cells with much needed proteins, gives your heart and metabolism a much needed holiday, all of which sets you up for success come morning. The upstate downstate pattern can also be found in the smallest kernel of our existence, such as in the single brain cell or neuron. All neurons communicate with each other through electrical signals called action potentials. Each action potential takes a lot of energy to fire off. And so after each action potential, the neuron requires a nap, also called a refractory period, which is illustrated here in the big burst of energy, followed by a dip, and then a return to a resting state. This period of total repose recharges the neuron and sets it up to fire again after a couple of seconds. And yes, men experience a similar, longer refractory period after orgasm, but luckily, women are free from that constraint. The upstate downstate pattern is also present during sleep, in the neural event that has recently been identified as the most restorative aspect of sleep, the slow wave. Here you can see 3 dipping slow waves in the EEG pattern, which represents a symphony of thousands of neurons firing synchronously. The slow wave emerges during deep sleep and is critical for many of the most important benefits that sleep provides, including the nightly rinse of toxins that left uncleared can build up plaques and tangles associated with Alzheimer's disease, the repair of muscle tissue, the synthesis of proteins, and the consolidation of recent experiences into long-term memories. Just like that old American Express card ad, the slow wave is something you don't want to leave home without. And just like that neuron, the slow wave has two sides: an upstate that provides a period for powerful neural communication across the whole brain, and a downstate where the entire brain falls silent. Evidence of this deep inhibitory state can be seen in the activity of a single neuron firing rate, which is illustrated here in these long spikes. If the EEG is like listening to a symphony of all your neurons firing, this single neuron is like listening to just one violin. Notice that when the brain experiences a slow wave, the single neuron ceases firing. This inhibition happens across the entire brain, a moment of complete and total rest. The upstate downstate cycle takes 1 second to complete and is essential for the restorative benefits of sleep to occur. And of course, there's the monthly cycle of women's sex hormones during the reproductive years. Women and people with cycles are deeply in sync with a natural rhythm that imbues every day with an extra layer of color. I like to think of the monthly hormone rhythm as a microcosm of the rhythm of an entire year. The fertile spring starts just after menses with a great big burst of the sex hormone estrogen. The verdant summer, a lush phase of both estrogen and progesterone. And then, just like the leaves on the trees during fall, all sex hormones plunge, preparing us for the how low can you go hormone dance during the dormant winter, menstruation. Each of these phases takes approximately 7 days, rendering the cycle more or less the same as a lunar cycle. When the hormones are high, basically right after your menses up until the end of fall, you're at your strongest, smartest, fastest, and most resilient to illness and depression. Studies from my lab have shown that while riding high on estrogen and progesterone during the spring and summer menstrual phases, women also have the most powerful sleep, including slow waves, and the best memory consolidation to boot, compared with our winter phase menstruation, when these sleep processes and their cognitive benefits weaken. Once these hormones start to descend, we see a drop in many different downstate domains, including an imbalance between our sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, worse sleep, poorer self-control when it comes to eating, and less activities that can bolster our good feelings. Interestingly, the same kinds of problems happen to women who are in the menopause transition and also postpartum. It's not the steady state of high hormones or no hormones, which comes during menses or after menopause. It's the transition that is most difficult and causes the most problems for women, both during menstruation, after giving birth, and menopause. Although women are protected from many cardiovascular and degenerative disorders during the reproductive years, once they reach the menopausal fall, women become significantly more vulnerable to heart disease and Alzheimer's than men. The good news is that the changes that women experience on the monthly basis or during menopause is entirely predictable and manageable with a little bit of planning and effort. The first step in the process is recognizing, accepting, and even inviting these natural rhythms to the table. Making room for them in your life means recognizing the effects the transition has on your downstate restorative processes and preparing for their arrival by bolstering those specific domains with healthy behaviors. I have provided recommendations for how to bolster 3 downstate domains that are critical to well-being: sleep, circadian rhythm, and autonomic activity. To make sure your sleep is rich in slow waves, you would like to ideally avoid late naps, because the late naps actually rob you of sleep pressure, which is what brings on the slow waves. You also need to avoid caffeine anytime after noon, because the caffeine can be in your system up to 6 hours or more, and it can really interfere with your sleep. Also, one of the things that happens as we get older is it's way easier for us to have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So reduce all liquids for at least 4 hours before bed. In order to increase slow waves, one of the best ways that you can do that is to initiate having a morning exercise routine, but not just a mild exercise routine, something that really gets your heart racing, that stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, that's a little bit stressful, because what happens is when you do that in the morning, not only are you getting exercise, but you're also stimulating a parasympathetic rebound that will happen later in the day, usually right around where your slow wave sleep should happen anyway. And this is a wonderful sort of talk about simultaneous orgasm of both the autonomic nervous system and the sleep systems, to have both high slow waves and high parasympathetic activity. The next thing I think is also usually very hard for people to do, but I really urge people to start taking it seriously, is getting early to bed. Your slow wave sleep is really happening in the first part of the night. And if you get to sleep too late, you will have more of your morning sleep interfering, and you won't get your slow wave sleep. So trying to get to sleep around 10 or 10:30 would be a great start. To pump up your parasympathetic autonomic activity, you want to pump up your circadian drive, you want to stimulate the suprachiasmatic nucleus and your entire brain with early morning sunlight. And if you don't have early morning sunlight because you live in a place where it's dark and cloudy in the winter, get a light box and truly just use it every morning for about 15 minutes. And this is tons of research shown that this is a great way to stimulate your circadian rhythm in the morning, which helps you have a very nice consolidated sleep period at night and keeps you aroused for the whole day. So you want to really indulge in the morning sunlight. Because the circadian rhythm is sensitive to light, you also want to ban blue light after 6 p.m. by either setting your phone and your computer and your television to have a filter that doesn't allow blue light, or you can wear glasses that also filter out blue light. If you're in a place like a gas station that has very bright light at night, wear sunglasses. Also, your circadian rhythm thrives when you have a consistent schedule for everything you do. Bedtimes should be consistent, wake times, eating times, exercise times, anything you can do to entrain the system to know what time it is, when you're getting direct light, when you're going to bed. These are systems that thrive on having a pattern that it can set yourself up to expect this stuff to happen. Lastly, I'm just going to talk about autonomic drive. What's most critical is to relax, and is to have deep, to control and manage your stress. Meditation is a great way of doing this. Anything that engages slow, deep breathing, which is on 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, which can be done with or without movements such as yoga. Eating healthy, look up the Mind diet is what I highly recommend. But anything looking like traditional Japanese diet, or traditional Mediterranean diet is also good. Of course, vegetarian diet is great, but even if you have small amounts of meat during the day, that's also fine. And sex and intimacy and physical touch, anything where you can be warm and safe and feel loved, that is also excellent for your parasympathetic system. For me, the mantra that I hold dear for myself when I think about keeping balance between my upstates and downstates is self-care starts with me. And I hope that that can be a mantra that you keep working through your experiences of your day and night. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer questions, or I have a new book coming out next year called The Hidden Power of the Downstate. And I look forward to that. Thanks.